I would have to say, of course, that's wishful thinking. There are no intermediate species at all. They did not exist. It's not like we're looking for missing links. The entire chain is missing. It did not happen. Similarities in structures between us and the apes or an ape-like so-called ancestor, similarities in body structure are certainly no proof of evolution. That's proof of an intelligent creator who used the same design over and over. The Honda Civic and the Honda Accord and the Honda Prelude have similarities, not because they all evolved from a Chevy, but because they all came from the mind of the same designer. So similarity is just as much proof of a common designer as it would be of a common ancestor. It is really not part of the argument. My colleague has mentioned natural selection several times. Natural selection certainly is also no help for evolution. Natural selection is just as much proof for creation as it is for evolution. Natural selection doesn't tell you how the animal got there. It just tells you which one survives. That would be proof just as much that an intelligent creator gave his creation the ability to produce a variety of offspring so that some would survive in any given environment. So natural selection is really not part of the argument at all. It's just as much evidence for creation as it is for evolution. It really has no bearing on the subject.
Okay, I'm going to throw you a general question that I have about 5 or 6 versions of. In effect, I'll read you one, but I'll give you the general question. We believe what we can prove. If we could or had the ability to prove that God exists, every person on the earth would have faith in the same God. And what I have 5 or 6 copies of is, how do you prove that there is a God?
Oh, I certainly couldn't prove that. I could demonstrate it. I could give some evidences. But changed lives would be one. He certainly has changed my life 24 years ago when I accepted Christ as my Savior. Been a mountainous change since then. But I would say asking for proof of something like that, I could, of course, turn the question around and say, give me some proof, show me what gravity is. Nobody knows what it is. We know what it does. We don't know what it is. You can't give me a jar of gravity, and you certainly can't paint it red. What is gravity? What is light? What is magnetism? There are many fundamental forces that we use all the time, but have never seen and have no idea what they are. I have never seen God. I did not see a 600-foot Jesus, and I don't think Oral did either. But if he did, he'd still be running. So I'm certainly not one of those kind, but I think it is something I take by faith. I've never been to Japan, never been there, but I have a Casio watch. I'm sure it's made in Japan, and I would guarantee there's a Japanese watchmaker over there, even though I've never seen it. I, by faith, would accept that. That's no problem. I see the results. I see the creation, me and you and the world, and there has to be a creator. There is design that indicates a designer. That argument has never been successfully answered by the evolutionists. Design demands a designer. They spend millions of dollars putting telescopes up to look for intelligent signals from outer space because they know that would prove there's intelligent life out there. And yet there are signals bombarding us all the time. It's just obvious what was created and what was not. I could get a bag of objects and put rocks and coins and watches and sticks in there and have you reach in and pull one out and tell me. A 5-year-old could tell you whether it was man-made or a naturally occurring object. And looking at the human body, looking at anatomy, looking at the structure of one paramecium, which is more complex than the entire space shuttle, you would have to say this was designed. The genetic code, the DNA code, had to be designed. Dropping letters out of a box does not form Webster's dictionary. I don't care how many billions of years you do it, the letters would wear out before you'd form the dictionary, and the genetic code is far too complex to ever have arisen by chance. So as far as I got off the question, proving the existence of God, I wouldn't attempt to. I would say that's something you're going to have to take on faith, just like the evolutionist takes on faith that there is a mysterious motivating force driving toward more complexity by pouring energy in. Adding energy to a closed system doesn't improve order. You can run a tornado through a junkyard and you'll never assemble a Boeing 747. Increased energy input. Hurricane Andrew did not assemble any buildings down in southern Florida, even though it tore up several lumber yards.
Okay, thank you. I think we need to go on if we may. Sorry to cut you off, but I'm kind of looking at a 5-minute clock here. Do you wish to handle how do we prove the existence of God, or perhaps something close?
I would refer to my opening remarks and I keep my religion as one part of my life, and my science as another part. My science I subject to evidence and material observations. My faith is just that. It is part of the non-material world, and it is answerable with questions directed by faith.
Thank you. Dr. Richardson first here. I'm going to throw you, paraphrasing what I've gotten 5 or 6 copies of here. Is there anything that evolutionists know for sure, not just, quotation marks, theory, and a number of the others have to do with how does a scientist define theory versus how does a creationist define theory?
Well, theory is defined as a fact in science, a fact based on empirical evidence. And a creationist, I believe, adds religious faith to that equation, and I would find that an inappropriate use of that. Now, is there anything that evolutionists know for sure? Is that the question?
Correct.
Again, I get my hackles up whenever I hear prove. With respect to biology, we weren't listening in the beginning when I talked about proofs being confined to the sciences of physics and chemistry. So please, you know, listen a little bit so we don't have to do this. So does evolution have evidence is there evidence of evolution? We have the fossil record. We have the current study of animal behavior, where if we ask questions in an evolutionary framework, we have predictive power in answering those questions. We have the science of ecology. We have subsciences. All of the subsciences of biology provide evidence for evolution and use evolution to give it predictive power. So yes, we have more than you can imagine. Volumes and volumes. If I brought my library and lined it up here next to Dr. Hovine's library, just the books that I read teaching an evolution course this term, we fill the Winona Library is stacks and stacks of books on evolution. These are not speculation, they are empirical evidence upon empirical evidence. The entire fossil record, the entire subsciences of ecology, animal behavior, taxonomy, all of the subsciences, physiology, anatomy. Biology is full of empirical evidence for evolution.
Dr. Hoban?
Listing all the sciences available certainly didn't offer any empirical evidence. To say that it exists, and I'd like to see it, I'll be reasonable and rational. I've heard many evolutionists say, well, we have lots of evidence, but nobody's ever brought it forth. Many scientists who believe strongly in evolution will say, we have no empirical evidence, but we believe it strongly because the only other alternative is creation, and that clearly is unthinkable. All the sciences that Dr. Richardson named were started by creationists who were looking for design and order in this universe. Nearly